This is CES Tech Talk. I'm James Kotecki, back with more intel from day 2 of CES 2023 in Las Vegas. We convened another great media panel to share the ideas and insights they're seeing at the world's most influential tech event. Enjoy this conversation direct from CES.
All right. Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here this afternoon. My name is Jim Fellinger. I am a senior manager on the communications team at the Consumer Technology Association. I'm joined by an amazing panel here today to talk about the future of mobility. So without any further ado, I'll let them introduce themselves.
All right, okay, here we go. I'm Alex, otherwise known as Supercar Blondie online. We started our online creation or content creation about 5 years ago, and we now have 100 million followers across our platforms. So all the social media platforms you can think of, we're on there. And we look at the latest tech in cars and, future cars, supercars, concept cars, that's kind of our specialty. Fantastic.
My name is Nick. I'm the co-founder of Supercar Blondie and run the day-to-day operations. We've started as an influencer basically pre-COVID, and then when COVID hit and put a hard lockdown, we had to find a new way to generate content and build the team out. And now about 40 people across the globe that generate content, and robotics and future tech is really up there with us as the car world and the tech world sort of merge.
Fantastic.
And my name is Dan Zukowski. I'm the transportation reporter for Smart Cities Dive, where I cover planes, trains, and automobiles. And a good portion of my career has been in and around the auto industry, so very happy to be here.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Floyd. I'm the Director of Editorial Operations for Motor Trend, obviously one of the oldest, biggest brands in automotive dome. And been with the company about 16 years in various roles. And obviously we're one of the biggest outlets out there in the world, do all kinds of things, video, photos, you name it, words, we do it all, we do it every day. So I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to dive into some specific questions about mobility, but I want to start off with something fun. So can each of you tell me what has surprised you most at this year's CES?
Should I start? Okay.
Feel free.
So for me, it's been really cool to see the color changing technology. I'm not sure of its practical uses at the moment, but I just think it's cool that we can do this now with cars. So for example, with the VW ID.7, they have this, phosphorus layer that glows when you put electric currents through it. And so you can see that car here where different panels kind of glow and light up. And then you've got the BMW iVision D, and that technology has moved on from last year. I don't know if you guys remember, but it's kind of a big deal when they launched their car last year with the black and white color changing technology, and now they've actually upped the game to 32 colors. So I was talking to the engineer yesterday, and she said it was quite difficult to actually program each color, because you've got to understand how or which voltage equals which color. So say if you run like a 12 volts through it, then that might be light blue. If you run 40 volts through it, that might be a red or something, right? So It took about 8 or 9 months for the team to work out what voltage equals what color, and depending on the program that they put through the layers, a certain color of paint comes to the surface. And I just think that's really cool. Like, for example, maybe in future we can use this for military vehicles, for camouflage tech, something like that. Otherwise, other practical uses could be, blinker systems. Instead of having the lights blink, just a part of the whole car will blink from white to yellow or something like that. So I think it's pretty cool.
Amazing.
I was fortunate to have dinner with the president of BYD, Stella Lee, last night, and I wasn't too much aware of actually what BYD was doing, because they're mainly based out of China, but they've become the world's largest seller of EVs. They're selling about 1.8 or 1.9 million individual vehicles this year, which is more than Tesla. And we looked at the BYD yesterday on the cars, and what you see is the future of mobility, of changing more, morphing the humans with the car itself and creating living spaces out of that as cars become autonomous, right? And what they've put in is a karaoke system. So you can literally they have a microphone in the car itself, and you can start singing karaoke. And I've never seen that before, so that was my highlight.
Fantastic. Dan?
What really stood out for me was the announcement the other day of the partnership between Stellantis and Archer Aviation, which is a company that is developing electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And the Stellantis is going to be not only investing in them, but helping them build the plant and manufacture the aircraft. So we're seeing this sort of combination of where the automotive industry is going and where the aviation industry is going. And perhaps not surprisingly, Carlos Tavares, the CEO of Stellantis, was on the board of Airbus, so he knows what's happening in that space. But it also sort of reinforces the significance of what Archer Aviation and their competitors in this area of what's sometimes called flying taxis are developing right now. So I think to me, was a very significant announcement.
I think the thing that I saw was Snapdragon, which is Qualcomm's software. They developed a whole car for this event, and to showcase all the things that they're doing in advanced autonomy, things around the interfaces, the things that people use and touch. And they've got so much technology that they just decided to do their own car around everything they do. So I thought that was really interesting.
Fantastic. Well, walking around West Hall yesterday, where the majority of mobility exhibitors are here at CES, I couldn't help but notice a lot of non-traditional auto names, actually big tech companies. Companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, others. What do you make of these companies making their entry into the automotive market? How does that change or disrupt the landscape?
Well, I think for me, it's about the software-defined vehicle, right? So what's happening now is these major players, the Qualcomms, the Mobileye's, the Googles of the world, are getting involved in the software part of how cars are being developed in the future. So we just had our Software-Defined Vehicle Innovator Awards last night, and we're really on the bleeding edge of what's going on with this because it's really changing everything. I've been with Mercedes for the last 2 days, and they're building out their own operating system, but they're also using technology partners like BlackBerry and all kinds of other partners like that, because they know they can't do it alone. But they know that they also have to learn from them, and they want to do more and more of it themselves, but they also know that they can't. So that's why these big tech partners are getting involved.
And I agree with you, Mike. And traditionally, the automotive industry, if we go back in history, has been a very conservative industry, very focused on design, build, create everything internally or with very limited number of suppliers. And what we've seen in these past several years, and it's clearly accelerating, this need to bring in all of these different partners. They can't do it all alone anymore. So that's been really to watch this shift in this major industry.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add to that quickly, but cars for so long were just all about the engine. How can we make it more powerful? How can we make it faster? How can we make it sound better? And now cars are tech. And we see that because we're at a consumer electronics show. I mean, that wouldn't have happened, a decade ago, right?
Of course.
It's all cars now. And
Yeah.
so in order to make cars more tech-focused, we need the tech brands to come in. We need the experts in those fields. So it just makes sense to me that, we have the Sony-Honda collab now, for example, and I feel like cars are now not about getting from A to B. It's an extension of your own living room. So it's now another, like you might have a 4-bedroom house, but now actually you have a 5-bedroom house because the 5th bedroom is your car.
Right.
And you can do anything in there. You can sleep in there. You can invite friends over for drinks while you get somewhere. You can have sing karaoke and have a karaoke room. I just feel like it's more based on the experience now, the tech experience, rather than just the drive getting from A to B. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, for example, the Apple car is predicted to come out in maybe 225 or so, but I think the exciting bit is when you have automotive brands try to create something or then find a collaboration with someone who understands automotive as well. There's just more innovation around design-wise and how they're going to look, right, and what they're capable of. But if everyone were to think, what is the Apple car going to look like, and what you could think, it sounds very exciting, right, and very intuitive probably to use and minimalistic and so. And so having these tech companies merge with automotive itself, which is, I think, accelerates the innovation and how cool it's going to be to use and look.
Dan, I have a question for you. We hear the term smart cities thrown around a lot here at CES. Can you share with our audience really what is a smart city, and more importantly, what does mobility look like in the smart city of the future?
That's a really good question, and I think the definition is sort of changing almost as we speak. The original definition, I think, that goes back 10 or more years, is basically a city that will use sensors and other sorts of IoT technology to help perhaps move traffic faster, or something as simple as transit signal priority to let buses go through on a green light, that sort of thing. But it's clearly evolving beyond that, and I think you're seeing that at some of the exhibitors here. What I think it means for the residents is, I think, a couple of things. It's what does it help? How does it help me get around? How does it help me feel safer in my city, get around more easily, etc. But there's also the privacy concern. When there's sensors all around you and cameras picking you up as you walk along and so forth, citizens are having some concerns about that. But there's no stopping where the technology is going to go, so those things will have to move forward in coordination.
And Mike, a question for you. Alex mentioned before BMW's changing cars, and that brought up a thought to me. There are just so many more services available in cars now. Where do you see that trend heading?
Oh, no question. It's going to be the driver and the passengers will be able to download all manner of content, videos, you name it. They'll be able to update their vehicles on the fly. So like they wanted something different in their user interface. That will be able to be downloaded to their car, and you can have that customized. All those kind of things now are on the horizon, and they're on the near horizon. This stuff is actually starting to happen. Like I said, I was with Mercedes, and they're partnering up with this one company where they're delivering all manner of like videos, video services, and the passenger can now watch that stuff with the driver driving, and that's happening now. So these kinds of things are only going to get more and more. Customized to your preferences, I guess you could say.
I just want to add to something else.
Please.
Really cool with the battery technology. Now, if you need a quick runabout car, you have to buy something small so you can park in the city. And then for the weekends or road trips, you need something bigger. So we all end up buying more than one car for our needs, right? But for example, with Renault, we saw that you can have a more compact car, and then the car actually extends. And it will drive onto this kind of automatic pad, and that pad will then insert more battery packs into the car because it will extend as you get onto the pad. And then obviously within the car, you've got more room then to be able to fit more batteries. So suddenly you go from a compact car that you can run about town every day to something a little bit more useful for road trips, and you get a longer range with the extra battery packs. You get more space in the car because the car is actually physically extended. So I think that's quite exciting as well, in that you can possibly just buy one car in future and it can have multiple uses. It can be compact, it can be big, it can, I think that's pretty cool.
Now, I actually want to ask a follow-up to you both, because I know you both have a passion for supercars. So can we talk a little bit about how you see technology transforming supercars in the next 5 years? I know there have been amazing advancements in the last decade alone. Let's talk about where we're headed.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Bugatti, just formed this partnership with Rimac, essentially, which is one of the first hyper supercar electric manufacturers, and I think they sort of announced that Bugatti is not going to produce any more petrol cars, which is, crazy to hear about and to see that trend going. But these hypercars on the electric side are just so much faster than what a petrol car can produce. So.
Yeah, and the other thing is the sound, right? So for so long, supercars, hypercars, we've been like, oh, what does it sound like? You turn the engine on, it's like,
Right.
Wah! It roars at you. And obviously that's going to go away to some extent when we turn to electric supercars. But what is exciting is speaking to some people, for example, Mitya is the head of design at Lamborghini, and he had an amazing idea where instead of having this loud roaring engine, you would actually have instead like subwoofers. And when you go past people on the street, the bass would be so low that you actually wouldn't hear it, you would feel it instead. It's like a visceral experience. Like when you get in, you feel the vibrations of the car without actually hearing anything. So it's like, I think it's so exciting for the supercar world to go, right, we've always known cars to sound like this. What's the future of how a supercar is going to sound?
And totally. I'm sorry. The Porsche Taycan is a perfect example of a borderline supercar, right? And it's all electric. It's incredibly fun to drive. And then to your point about sound, you're absolutely right. I think we're going to be able to do things like the new Dodge concept, right? Like, these Challengers, you hear them all over the place going bananas, right? So Dodge has got to figure out a way to make that kind of sound in those people that have always been buying those Challengers and Chargers to really engage with that, right? Because that's absolutely part of the experience, right? So that's going to be a big challenge when you start to get to these cars. But right now, the EV, very high performance EVs are really fun to drive.
Yeah. And just to that sound as well, like BMW went as crazy as partnering with Hans Zimmer, Oscar-winning composer for The Lion King, for example, and Batman and other great movies, and have him compose sound effects for their future EV range in cars. Like, I mean, that's insane,
yeah,
right?
like you get in and you turn the engine on and it like sounds like a pride of lions or something,
It's incredible.
It's just, there's no end to it.
So it begs the question then, is the fire-breathing V12 dead?
I don't know. I think there will always be some V12s. But there will be a much smaller market for it. And partly because manufacturers need to adhere to very strict emissions standards now, right? So they can't just go around and produce, 1,000 V12s. They might produce 10 V12s a year, who knows? But those things will become very collectible cars.
Yeah.
I don't think they will go away altogether.
No, I don't think so either, but it'd probably be boutique automakers, low volume type stuff. I think you're right. Like the Lamborghinis of the world, they've all but said there will be no more V12s. So, it's unfortunate, but I think to your point, there will be some form of that. And obviously there's going to be a collector car market forever.
As a car guy from way back, I'd still like to be able to drive a manual transmission.
I love it. Well, as many of you know, the Indy Autonomous Challenge is taking place here at CES. For those who don't know, this is a fully autonomous vehicle race. It's pretty incredible to watch. But there's been a big question mark around when autonomous vehicles are really going to reach full adoption. There are many who have said that there's just been an enormous amount of hype here, that the technology is years and years out. I'd like to start with Mike and work our way down. How far do you think we really are from near full adoption of that sort of technology?
We're quite a ways away. Now, obviously, Tesla's, basically, they're pushing the envelope with their technology, their full self-driving technology. But even they right now say you must have, it's in the fine print, right? You must be in control of the vehicle at all times, right? And I was with Mercedes, and they have a level 3 system, which is a system where you can kind of keep your eyes off the road and do things, but you can't go to sleep, you can't do anything. And they're testing it now in Nevada. But basically, I mean, that's just like a dipping a toe in the water, right? They're doing it commercially in Germany. They're rolling it out soon. But it's a very, very small, incremental step. I think we're probably 10 to 15 years away before you get to a point where you could read a book or fall asleep in a car. And that's probably optimistic, honestly. But we'll see.
So I've been doing some stories along those lines and have talked to the folks at Qualcomm, at Ambarella here today, and speaking to engineers. In fact, I'll be speaking to someone from the IEEE later today. One of the things that, or perhaps a key thing that could put us over the line in terms of real safety, real possibility for level 3, level 4, level 5 autonomy is what's called the system on a chip. And these things are literally the size, less than the size of your palm. And they will take in all of the data. They take in all the data from the cameras, the LiDAR, the radar, process the perception, that's called the perception, do the fusion, which is putting it all together, understanding what the big picture is of what's happening around the car, and then being able to do the response. Now, what the engineers are telling me is this will be possible in the next 5 years. So that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'll just go with the 5 years. It sounds like a good idea.
I was going to say the same, like what
he
he
sounds
said.
like he knows what he's talking about.
You know,
It's not me, it's the engineers.
Yeah, I think one part is legislation, right? And the whole liability issue of what if something happens and it was caused by a robot rather by a human, and how you go about that, although I think it will be much safer than humans driving. Like they had here's a person, a stand where they have a breathalyzer on the steering wheel itself, and you can actually test it and see whether you have been alcohol or not. And there's stuff around that you might become compulsory, that before you can even get in a vehicle, it has to be breathalyzed, and the vehicle does it itself, right? But we've been on the autonomous side with Mercedes. They have a whole fake Autobahn in Germany and a whole test track where they placed all the cars, and the car would just drive by itself through, and parking in and out into parking spaces, or actually finding the park. The car can do it all by itself. So I think the technology is super advanced to be able to do it, but I think legislation and people trusting it is I think another issue that might delay it longer.
Yeah, and also I just want to drive.
Right. I mean, we're probably talking to, a number of gearheads out there. What is driving without the experience?
Yeah,
It's a
I
great
mean,
point.
even lane assist really annoys me. It's I have to turn it off every time I get in. It's like, let me drive. So I think there's going to be, I'd rather it be fully autonomous and I get in the car knowing, okay, this is my nap time, or this is my time to like watch a movie or something, or I get in the car to drive, to experience that. I don't like the in-between. I don't know, there's just something about me not liking that kind of like faux assist. And it's like, no, I've been able to do this for 20 years. I can still stay in the lane,
Right.
So,
well, let's talk about, actually, Dan, do you have another point?
No, I just wanted to add on to that. It
Please.
is the in-between that is the problem. And one of the things that we're seeing here is the rise of these driver management systems or driver supervision systems, where they're going to be monitoring you if your eyes go off the road, if you are texting, if you're doing something that's not focused on the actual act of driving. And that's going to be that in-between situation where you're still at level 2, level 3, and you are responsible, but too many of us we will let ourselves be distracted and so on. So that's another aspect that's coming in as well.
That's great. And I'm seeing that we are coming close to the end of our time here, so I want to end on a pretty fun note. So there have been a lot of technology trends that have emerged at CES this year. There are certainly mobility trends that are top of mind this year. I'm asking you all each to make a bold prediction. What's one thing that we're going to be talking about at CES 2024 that we're not talking about enough at CES 2023? Mike, we can start with you and work our way down, or if one of you is ready, please jump in.
I think it's the software-defined vehicle. It's how software is going to interact with the car. It's how they're building the cars. We're already seeing it a little bit, but I think next year and in the following years, it's going to be even bigger.
I don't know if it's going to be next year or certainly by the year after, but in the next year or two, we're going to be taking rides in a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft right from out there.
Sounds easier than the traffic line out there.
I mean, I don't know if there'll be one certain thing. I think there are a lot of different ideas being put out there, and I think obviously some of them have more practical uses and others are just something cool to look at, and you're like, oh man, that's the future. That could come in 50 years or so. But simple things like lighting features. Instead of cars always having chrome accents, the cool thing was for a car to have chrome grille or chrome accents on the side. It's like, wow, that's fancy. Now it's lights. The way that you accent a car is now with the badge lighting up, or the wheel arches having a light feature or something like that. I think lighting itself is going to be a huge feature of cars in the future. And also things like shy tech, like really reducing everything you see in the vehicle so you don't have any like buttons everywhere until you need them. So as soon as you place your hand somewhere, then the buttons light up in light form, and then you can press whatever you need to be able to activate, the door or the windows or whatever else. But until you need it, it's gone. It's not there. You don't see it. So I think that's kind of two features that I'm looking forward to seeing more of.
Yeah, what I haven't really seen, not that I've seen everything here, is hydrogen technology. So we visited Hyperion, which is a company in California that uses NASA technology and created a full hydrogen car, a hypercar, and the sole emission it has is water, just water coming out the back end, right? And I think that is probably even more sustainable and is the real future rather than actually EV. So that is something I haven't really seen here at all at the moment, and I think that's probably a space to look out for as well.
Yeah, we were driving the Hyperion in LA, and it's a fully functioning car. It's just at the moment, it's the parts are too heavy. I don't know everything about it at this point, but what I took away from it is the technology just isn't there yet to be able to have a fully functioning car go hundreds of kilometers on hydrogen. It can go a short distance, but at this point they haven't reached that point. But it means that you're not sourcing materials for batteries. You're not trying to recycle batteries. The emissions you don't have, you're not sourcing electricity for the batteries to run on, and it's purely just water vapor out the back. It's quite incredible, and I think, yeah, you're right. I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, Toyota already has a vehicle called the Mirai that's out, and so there are hydrogen vehicles out there. But you're absolutely right. I think the Japanese are incredibly high on hydrogen. I think you're absolutely right. There are some issues around creating the hydrogen and making it like fully available and fully usable. Like, we had a Mirai in for a year, and it was difficult to fuel it up anywhere outside of the Los Angeles area. So there are some challenges, significant challenges around it, but it is a great propulsion in hopefully in the future. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a fantastic note for us to end on. How about a quick round of applause for our fantastic panel?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well, that's our show. Thanks for listening. You've just downloaded the latest insights from CES 2023 into your brain. And of course, there's always more tech to talk about. So please subscribe to this podcast and don't miss a moment. You can get even more CES at ces.tech. That's ces.tech. Our show is produced by Nicole Vidovich with Mason Manuel and Kristen Miller, edited by Third Spoon with our lead audio engineer, Andrew Lin. I'm James Kotecki, talking tech on CES Tech Talk.